Hello, man. Hello, Mgtows. There's a little something that's been driving me absolutely crazy. Hello, Dr. McCoy. How's my sound? Little something that's been driving. I'm trying to get my sound together, guys. So excuse me on that. I forgot to put in my earphones, and that's always the big mistake you can make around here. So that takes the sound from the speakers away, and you don't get no, well, I don't really need them today, do I? Because I'm on alone. So one of the big problems here that I see in the MRA and what I see in men in general. Let's talk about parenting rights. Let's talk about things that we rarely talk about in here. There are some men around here that have children. There are some men around here that had to gone through this thing with the courts, and that's where you see the true evil in this thing, and you see the true evil of I just made a video on shared parenting is not 50-50 custody. There's a presumption in the courts and with women that your children are not your children and you have to buy them back. That's the MRA. That's what the MRA has been fighting for. That's why they've been failing for years. The MRA has simply been failing for years after years after year after year because of one thing, because of this shared parenting argument. All they're telling you with shared parenting is you get to see your children. It changes nothing about the money. It changes nothing about alimony. It changes nothing about their presupposition, their presumption in the courts and in the eyes of women that they are not your children. They are not your children. And that's why I say all the time, they are not your children. You have to start looking at it, that essentially what happens to men that go through this is you have to look at it very differently than what they're telling you. It's a lot of double speak, and it's a lot of it's all that. There's three things that can happen in this. You can be a good father going home from work, you can come home one day and your wife just decides to leave. She's going to take the children. She's essentially kidnapping your children. You have to look at it that way. She's essentially kidnapping the children. The court supports females kidnapping males' children and taking them out of the house. When you look at it any way less than that, you're looking at yourself as less than human. That's what they've always wanted for you, is you to look at yourself as less than human. No. Mgtow, from its inception, has always said, we are people too. We are humans too. And we'll treat ourselves like humans. And then the MRA always takes the inceptions that they're less than human and they have no rights to their children. Yes, they are holding your children for ransom and you pay. That's the only way you get to see your children. And lawyers and judges and mothers and conspiracies with the mothers is what makes this happen. We as men, as Mgtows, have to start taking the position that it's a simple kidnapping and explain it to them that way. You are kidnapping my child. If a robber came in your house and kidnapped your children, what would you do? You would kill him. You would kill him. No doubt about it. A father would kill him. But these same judges and lawyers and mothers with this presupposition that they aren't your children come in and do the same thing to you, and then they hold you ransom. They hold the children ransom, and you will become the payee. That is wrong. That's where the slavery comes in. If you start buying into that system like that, you're buying into an evil fucking system that holds children hostages. And that's the correct Mgtow stance on this. There is no other Mgtow stance on this. We have plenty of men around here that have children. And every day they're held The children are held hostage by the corrupt court system and the mothers with the presupposition that they were never the father. And the only way you get rights as a father is if you buy them back from them. That is ransom. Shared parenting. This is what brought this up. That moron, Alexander Mgtow, which calls himself a Mgtow, but has no idea what he's talking about, has no idea, takes the MRA stance. And this is where Paul and this is where the MRAs got to get their head out of their ass. Now look at it this way. If a father was to take the children and move the children to a different house, the state would come in and say, that's kidnapping. They do it all the time. You hear it all the time. Fathers kidnapping their children. But the mother kidnaps the children and they say, oh, it's a divorce. It's legal things. If the father wants to see his children and just comes and takes his children, they will call it kidnapping. That's the way the law works. That's where they're wrong. The father has every right to that child, every single right to that child that the mother has. This is where 50-50 custody comes in. And this is where we so blew it in Minnesota. And we so blew it in Florida. And Alexander Mgtow is right about the Republicans and the right wingers. They're fucking throwing such a wrench in this thing because they don't understand. They don't understand that they threw a wrench in the thing and that they're assisting in kidnappings every day. But they don't take it nearly far enough like a Mgtow would. When we do these things, we have to say these things like Mgtows would. Reasonable men. When they come and took my children, they kidnapped my children. And then they held them for ransom. That's what they did. And that's the way we should say it, because that's the truth. We don't make these things double speak, and we don't speak like women around here. 50-50 custody is the end game, and that's the only end game. Now, in a lot of circles in the MRA, you start talking about shared parenting. Shared parenting is such a it's a piece of shit. It's bullshit. What they're doing is they're asking you to be subservient to them. And as soon as you are subservient, they will start selling back to you little bits and chunks of the ability to be with your children and be a father. That is non-acceptable. Shared parenting is a piece of shit law. It's double speak by females. I know it took a long time for me to realize that. I had to sit down one day when I was going through this and really take a look at this ambiguous language. And that's all it is. It's intentionally created ambiguous language by lawyers and kidnappers. That's all it is. Men, let's cut through this thing. Start saying it very much like it is. This thing pisses me off. This thing makes my blood boil when I talk to MRAs and they take the subservient. They want to acquiesce. That's what when Barbarossa was talking about acquiescing, about men acquiescing to this, this is exactly what we were talking about. The MRAs want to acquiesce. Paul and that group up there does not understand nothing about the divorce system, the way it really works. Most of these guys don't even have children. They've never been through it. They've never been through that. They see it at a very shallow. Most of these guys, they look at it from the idea that everybody's a millionaire and everybody can afford to pay ransom to see their children. Now, on the other end of this thing, if you buy into that shared parenting thing, it is what it is. It's exactly what it says it is. You have shared parenting duties. They will enforce parenting duties onto you. You just bought your own slavery. You just agreed to your own slavery. You will become the babysitter on the Saturday nights and Friday nights and Sunday nights. You will become the taxi cab driver for them. You will become the payee. When you go to get your children, she will say, give me a little extra money and you can have them. Because that's how far it's gone now. That's how far it's gone. The real Mgtow stance on this thing is we just need to kill all of yous because You people don't understand. Them people don't understand that they've kidnapped your children. If a robber came into your house and stole your children, what would you do to him? For the rest of my life, I have one duty on this planet, is to make the kidnapper pay. And that's my Mgtow. That's my Mgtow. And these idiot MRAs and these idiot shallow men that come around here and start talking about this out of their ass like they read it out of some book, but they can never truly feel the idea of it in their head. They can never quantify the idea in their head because they've never been through it. And that's what Messenger and that's what and that's what Shining have been saying this whole, they can never feel the idea in their head. They can never feel what had happened. We got our children kidnapped from us. And that's the only stance that we say. That's the only idea that we project, because that's what it is. That's the bottom line. That's the Mgtow truth. Now, in Mgtow, we request that you don't get married. We do that for a reason. So you don't have to go through this. Somewhere in the 60s and 70s, things changed. They blame it on no-fault divorce. I'm not sure it's about no-fault divorce. It's just another enemy they draw up in their head to detract from they are kidnapping your children. It's just another of these dragons they draw up in their head. Yes, have no empathy for these people. When you see these lawyers kidnapping children of males and your friends, you should treat them like fucking dirt. The dirt they are. And that's the American, that's the red-blooded American spirit. We are done. We are done talking with them. Mgtows are saying, we are done talking with you. We're going to take this into a real world. We are the Fight Club guys. We're not going to talk about it to you anymore. But if I see you in an alley, if I see you in a bar, I'm going to smash your fucking brains out. And that's the truth. That's the Mgtow attitude. We are done talking girl talk and double speak. Yeah, sorry about that, Tim. You know the deal. They're just kidnapped your kid. And if you have a kid, I don't know if Tim has a kid, but they're just kidnapping your kid and holding them ransom so you pay. And the lawyers are part of that payment system. You have to pay for the lawyer. A very large amount to pay for the lawyer too. Yes, this system is really, really corrupt, and the Mgtow attitude should be taken by all men. If we start saying no, that's the word that we should start saying is no to these people. I'm going to come and take my children when I want to see my children. And I don't need some judge telling me when that's appropriate and when that's not appropriate, because guess what? They are my children. 100% mine. I don't need some judge and some lawyer stepping in the middle of that and trying to regulate it so they can tap some money out of my ass. I'm sick of being an ATM to these fucks. I got sick of being an ATM to these fucks a long time ago. Their system is corrupt, and that's what we need to say. A very Mgtow way. Don't play these MRA games. These MRA games will put you in a position where you're paying to see your children and you're paying a lawyer to speak for you. The only words that should come out of your mouth is, no, you will not kidnap my children. And there are penalties for that. Call it vigilante justice. Call it whatever you want. But they need to know that. They need to know that we're going to take this to a higher level. It pisses me off. It pisses me off when these namby-pamby little sissy girl MRAs come around here, start talking about shared parenthood. And you have to beg to be the father, like you are a subhuman. You are the father. You are the father, and that's it. It's 50-50 custody or nothing. And if these lawyers want to argue, well, that'll come down to bullets eventually. That's why I wanted to have this little podcast today. And I know it's a touchy subject. There are MGTOW ways to think about things, and there are MRAs that ways to fail. The MRA has been failing for the last 40 years. You know why they've been failing for the last 40 years? Because they take that subservient, that acquiescing attitude. They're them guys that bow down to the system. They're those guys that acquiesce to fucking females. That's what they are. They're disturbed little individuals that acquiesce to females. The proper MGTOW attitude is a very strong attitude. And once you display that in public to a judge, he will get it. My last word to the judge after that is, you simply have an enemy and you should watch your back for the rest of your life. And that's what you need to tell them. You simply have an enemy. The enemy may be hidden. He may be not visible right now, but I am that enemy of those judges and those lawyers, and they should watch their back, and they should be afraid. Most of the men I know around here and in my group are soldiers, and we take things very seriously. If you want to kidnap my children and hold them hostage for the rest of your life, it's like that one movie with the guy, and he says, good luck with that, is I'm coming for you. Good luck with that. I'm coming for you. I'm taking a very MGTOW attitude with that. None of this, no more of this namby-pamby MGTOW begging to see your children and begging for. The court system has no authority in your life. The family court system has no authority in your life. That's the way you have to look at them. The court system, the family court system, is a system that kidnaps children. You disregard them. You simply disregard them. And if you get a chance to send them to their heaven, to send them to their God, you do that. Yes, I've heard that. The kids are more of the government's property than yours. You're just fulfilling a role to them. You see it in HHS. Tim, you've read those HHS manuals and everything, and what a good father is. A good father pays to go see him. A good father goes over there. He plays with the kid. He gives his fatherly advice and everything. They're just tapping your utility there. They're just tapping your fucking utility. That's all you are to them, is a money machine, an ATM, and someone to come over and babysit on the weekends. Fuck that. Them kids are mine. And that's where we have to start taking that attitude that if you want to take my children from me and you want to hold them hostage and hold them ransom, there will be penalties for that. And that's what we're saying in Mgtow. That's the only position we take. It's a simple position. We simplify everything in Mgtow because we're sick of doing the argument. We're walking away from marriage for a reason. Why do you think we're walking away from marriage? Why do you think we're walking away from all that shit? Why do you think we're not gay? We're not doing that because we're gay. We're walking away because the court systems are so corrupt we can no longer stand it. And we're going to come and take care of that sooner or later. We're that fight club that's going to come and visit them once sooner or later. We simply don't yell it to them all the time. They should know that. A man that comes and kidnaps your children in the middle of the night should know that someday you're going to come and visit him in a very serious way. That's all I wanted to talk about a little bit in this podcast. If they don't get it and these MRAs come around here, and we just heard from this Alexander Mgtow, the guy that been talking to that moron, and I forgot for the last few weeks to call Alex Brown a moron, and I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, but usually I try to call him a moron and an idiot once a week. Now we've seen the latest thing with TFM. They start on him. Once I stopped arguing with him. Once Messenger started, these idiots just went to the next MRA because that's their thing. That's all they're around here to do. They're around here to disrupt Mgtow. They're around here to disrupt Mgtow. That's all they do is disrupt. We have to throw these guys out. They're allowed in the MRA over there. The MRA was made for those stupid fucks. The MRA is designed for those men that acquiesce to women. The MRA is designed for that. They acquiesce and they think they're going to play the game with a woman. They think they're going to play that game with the government. The government doesn't care whether you're playing the game. They laugh at you. The women and the government laugh at you when you start playing that game. That means when you start playing that game, that simply means that you've bought into the demons in your head that they want you to buy into. As a Mgtow, we say, no, we're not buying into those games, and you go to hell and get the fuck out of my life, and you stay away from me. And I have some guns over here that will keep you from coming around. I have a big dog that will keep you from the gates of the doorways of my castle as a man. That's the way you need to treat these men, because they will come and they will take. These women will take. They will take. That's what they do. They're sitting on lighter than air jobs. What do you think their job is? It's a lighter than air job. They don't manufacture anything. So they have to figure out ways to take from you. The legal system, the divorce system, the family court system, HHS is all designed for one reason: to take from you, the male, the man, right here, in the form of taxes, in the form of terrorism, and in the form of kidnapping your children. That's what they do. And that's where they're wrong. And that's why we have to get rid of HHS. We have to get rid of the family court, the divorce system, the corrupt divorce system in our country. It's not because we're minimalizing the size of government. It's because they're doing abhorrent shit. Now, when I get these guys coming around and not understanding or misunderstanding why we do these things, why we are here, it makes me sick. It makes me truly sick. And you've heard it from Mgtow Messenger. You've heard it from myself, and you've heard it from Shining. When you don't understand, these guys come around and they don't understand the levity, the depth, how deep the rabbit hole. We say that all the time, how deep the rabbit hole goes, the extent of pain that you will have to endure if you go down that road with them. They don't care about you. You're a disposable human. Your rights are out the door when you deal with them. There's only one logical answer. That is not to get married. I wish I knew that before. There was no Mgtow around before to enlighten me about these things, about how things were really going to work. They will lie to you with happy unicorns and bunnies. And there's going to be some white picket fence at some house. No, she will be living in your white picket fence in your house as you're living in a one bedroom down in the city, trying to scratch it out so you can buy a house again. The biggest problem with Timothy Blades, the biggest problem isn't the family court. It's an open reigns of no checks and balances, pure romper room. It is pure romper room. Have you ever been in one of those things? If you ever been in one of those things, them judges are just horrendously fucking evil people. And when you look at this whole thing, the lawyers are sitting across directing the game for someone that just kidnapped your children. And it's fucking silly romper room bullshit. As a male, you walk in there, you are suspected of a crime to begin with. You are suspected of a crime before you walked in. A lot of us call this prior restraint. That's what our First Amendment's about. It's about prior restraint. It's about restraining someone from saying what they need to say before. That's what the family courts are about. It's about prior restraint. It's about restraining the men from saying, no, you're not going to kidnap my children. before we say it. And that's all I wanted to talk about today a little bit. That's all I wanted to get off my chest. Because when we see these guys, these MRA type guys, influx in to Mgtow, they're always going to bring a few things with them. They're always going to bring some of that goddamn baggage they bring in, that 40 years of failure that they bring in. They got to start taking a Mgtow attitude about this. Family courts are simply kidnappers. That's the way we look at them. We don't go any farther than that. The family courts are simply kidnappers of males' children's, of fathers' children's. They're destroyers of fathers' rights. Once we all start looking at them like that, this thing will change quite rapidly. If you bargain with these people, you are bargaining with the devil. Bargaining with a lawyer, bargaining with a judge, you are bargaining with the devil. And they will say, it's with that shared parenting thing, they're saying, sign this contract. Sign the paper. Sign the paper, you dog. That's what they're telling them. And that with that paper, it's admitting all your faults, all your guilt that they have put in there. Every really evil group of people have done this. The Nazis signed the paper. In Vietnam, they were like, sign this paper and admit your guilt. The Chinese did that. Sign this paper and admit your guilt because you have no rights. You have no rights as a father. They will simply say, sign the paper. And at the end of that, if you refuse to sign the paper, the judge has this tricky little thing, and it's in the law. He will sign your name to it. And that's when it becomes real evil. I refused to sign the court settlement because the court settlement wasn't good enough for me. The court settlement wasn't 50-50 custody. I refused to sign it. Guess who signed it for me? The judge signed it. He said I had so little of rights that at the end of that process, when I was not going to agree to that contract, he would sign it for me and enforce it. It becomes a simple matter of enforcement at that point. You have no rights as a male. And that's where we start off here in Mgtow. That's where we start off here in Mgtow. We think of ourselves as better. We think of ourselves as having rights, as being real humans. And once we start thinking about ourselves as being humans instead of canter fodder for wars and canter fodder for the divorce system and canter fodder for women, we start thinking they get really, really afraid. They will get really, really afraid, and they will start feeling us. Once men start having a little self-respect, instead of acquiescing to these females and these gynocentric courts and these systems of war that use you as cannon fodder, do not acquiesce to these people. They will start feeling us. And in the meantime, we starve the system. We go galt. In the meantime, we do these things we do as Mgtows. We say the things we say as Mgtows. And we say them harsh and unapologetically. Because that's what we are. We are the harsh, unapologetic truth. And we don't play games with evil people. We don't play games with feminism. I could give a shit what feminism does. I could give a shit what the girls do. We don't play those games. It's harsh, unapologetic truth with Mgtows. And that's where we are. Sorry, just roasted some coffee this morning. It's very good. I finally got the knack of roasting this coffee with this Nicaraguan blends. I bought a few pounds, a big bag of it actually, and I had it for like a month, and I couldn't figure out where the roasted at. I was doing a city roast, and it didn't taste right, and I was doing a an Italian roast and it didn't taste right. And I was like, yeah, somewhere in the middle. It takes a while to learn these things. But now I did a city, like a morning breakfast blend on it. And it's really good now. And I'm happy with it. But the bag's almost done. By the time I figured out how to do it, the bag's already done. That's a lot like the divorce court. By the time you figure out how to do it, the bag is empty. See how they spin these things around? That's what it felt like to me. By the time I figured out how to do it with those people, my bag was empty. And that's what they wanted. Why they wanted my bag to be empty. I had nothing left. I was a destroyed father. And that's when I found Mgtow. Mgtow gave me life again. I said, wait a second, this shit is corrupt. And no one was listening. They listened to me in here. So, man, I just wanted to do, a couple-minute podcast today to get that off my chest and explain a few things to these men that are coming. I'm not going to acquiesce to it. Listen, if you hear me talking to these guys like they're fucking idiots, that's just what I'm going to say to them. Alexander Mgtow, if you bring that shit to my table and my real life, I'm going to put a fucking hammer in your head. Telling me that I have to pay someone to see my children, telling me that they're going to kidnap my children and hold them ransom, that's a death penalty in my book, and they better believe that. That's it. That's it. I just wanted to do a short video, well, a short podcast in place of a video today. And I don't want to make it too long, so I make it palatable. So I'll see you guys tomorrow on the regular Sunday broadcast. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I think a few of the guys are going to be in. We'll see. But I'll see you on the regular throwdown tomorrow. You guys have a great Saturday. I'm going to try to make my great Saturday. I just needed to vent a little here today. And thanks for my regular guys for showing up. And I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you tomorrow. You guys take care. And that's it. I'm out.